Hello and welcome back to the Kalopsia Podcast. I'm your host, Sydney, and I'm so thankful that you guys clicked on this week's episode. So, as you guys know, we started on a new schedule. We're releasing episodes every 2 weeks now, and this week, when this is coming out, it's going to be the day before my birthday. My 23rd birthday. So for this week's episode, I thought it would be fun to go through some of the lessons that I've learned in this 22nd year of life. I feel like I learned a lot, I adjusted a lot, I spent a lot of time alone, and I feel like with that comes some introspection, and I feel like I learned a lot this year, honestly. So I thought it would be a good idea if we could both go through this list. I think I have 11 points, and you guys can let me know what you think, if you agree, if you disagree. Don't be shy to discuss it in the comments. But without further ado, the first thing I wanted to discuss is prioritizing yourself does not equate to hurting someone else, does not equate to belittling someone else. For a long time, I felt really responsible for other people's emotions. I felt really responsible for other people's experiences. I felt responsible to maintain the vibe, to maintain the energy, to keep everybody happy, to keep everybody kind of like almost perceiving me as having value. I think that's what it boiled down to. I felt like the time that people spend with me needs to be perceived as valuable, needs to add to their lives. And so that's kind of like how I went about my life. And what does this sound like? People pleasing, right? It is definitely people pleasing. And I feel like this year, it took me a really long time to make that distinction in between prioritizing myself and not necessarily like that, not necessarily meaning that I am deprioritizing someone else, or I mean, I am deprioritizing someone else, but rather I am not actively hurting someone else. I thought those two were the same in this particular instance in my life, which I won't go into the total details. But in my family, there was someone who I really felt like if I didn't give my 100%, if I didn't give all of my energy to this, bend myself to this instance or this person at every whim, then I was actively hurting this person. The thing with prioritizing yourself, right, is that the way that I like to think of it, right, is I am actively choosing to help myself. I'm actively choosing to focus on myself. I'm actively choosing to pour into myself. Now, that doesn't mean that I am choosing to actively hurt someone else. The difficult truth to accept here is that the other person might hurt after this decision or might be hurting, but there is a distinction to be made with them hurting at their baseline rather than you having an active approach, an active role in that hurt, in that pain, or in that negative experience of theirs, right? So it is important to make that distinction just because for your mental health, for everyone's mental health, for my mental health, I felt that the more that I poured into this thing, poured into it, and bent myself to it, and deprioritized myself, then it was only going to hurt me in the long run. It was only going to keep hurting me. It was only going to keep going. And then what would we be left with? To hurt people, to hurt, hurting people, to hurting entities, if you will. So my prioritizing myself, my pouring into myself does not equal me hurting someone else. And I feel like that's something that's probably the biggest lesson I learned this year. Number 2 on the list is that no one is going to force you to do anything. And I feel like this might be a given, but for, I want to say 6 years, right? I said I need to get my license. I need to get my license. I need to start driving. I need an ID above all. I was walking around with my passport everywhere. You know, I'm like, that's not safe. Like, I need another form of ID if I want to just like travel interstate, you know, I don't have to bring my passport everywhere. I need another ID. That's what I was thinking. And so for literally 4 years, I have said this, I've said this, but no one's going to force me to do it. No one's going to force me to go on the RMV website and plug it in. No one's going to force me to study. No one's going to force me to schedule an exam. No one's going to force me to practice. Nobody is going to force me to do it, right? And this also applied to grad school. You know, one of the big reasons why I've decided to make this podcast a bi-weekly schedule is to plan to not overflow my brain, right, with this upcoming semester starting. And no one was going to force me to apply to grad school. No one was going to force me to do it. And that's the biggest thing here. I think I've realized this year, is that when I have an idea to do something, I need to act on it. And if I don't act on it, I need to write it down. Because the other thing is, when you were in school, when you were in high school, when you had to apply to college, if you had to get your license even when you were in high school or elementary school, you're not getting your license in elementary school, but like things that you need to sign up for when you're younger, you usually have a little person, a parent, a guardian, someone saying, okay, you need to sign up for that. Did you sign up for that? Have you done that yet? What if you did this? What if you did that? Have you thought about your options? And sometimes you'll think about it. You'll think, oh, like maybe I should apply to that school. Like that program actually sounded really good. And then you'll totally forget about it. But then that guardian, that parent, that friend, that whatever will say, hey, did you ever look into that, right? That doesn't happen as much in adulthood. I feel like sometimes you'll have an idea, you won't talk to anybody about it. You'll have an idea, you'll be like, okay, that would be really cool if I did that. Okay, gone it goes. No one's going to force you to do it. No one's going to remind you. So act on it. Act on that thought. Act on that idea, project, whatever. Act on your goals, because no one is going to force you to do it. No one's going to give you that momentum. You have to find it on your own. And so write it down, break it down. How can you get started? And that's what I recommend. Now, number 3 kind of goes into that, which is to follow your intuition, right? I feel like something that I really noticed this year is that I actually really did trust my intuition. Back in November of last year, freshly 22, I had been thinking, well, I actually want to go back because this also happened when I was 21. I was working at this one location of this store. Okay, I can probably say it now. I used to work at Tate Bakery, where I don't work anymore. But I used to work at Tate, and I used to work at one location. And for 6 months, my subconscious mind was telling me in my mind, like, no puedo trabajar en estas condiciones. I was like, why is this phrase like on repeat in my mind in Spanish? Like, Spanish is not my first language. It's not even my second, right? I'm like, interesting phrase to have on repeat stuck in my head. No puedo trabajar en estas condiciones. I was like, I cannot work in these conditions. So then I transferred, right? I transferred and I was like, okay, this is great. This is good. But then I kept having that little creeping feeling in the back of my head saying, no, I'm not supposed to do this. Like, I'm really not supposed to do this. And I'm going to be honest, there's still some things right now that I'm doing that isn't really in line with my intuition. And I can genuinely tell why it's not working, how it's not working. And I almost feel like the universe is showing me why it's not working as well, but I'll get into that in a second. But in that first instance that my intuition was like, you've got to get out of here, I transferred. I was like, okay, this is good. I'm rocking with it. But then I was like, you know what? This doesn't feel right. So I ended up quitting back in November. And then I got I had a different coffee shop job at the same time. And then eventually I also quit that one. You know, I was thinking, I'm not meant to keep doing this anymore, like full-time coffee shop job work, right? Like, this doesn't, no shame to that game either. Like, I did that for 4 years, so there's no shame in the game. But I was just like, enough, I'm done. I don't want it anymore. I was like, no, I'm good. So I ended up getting a job in my field, which was really exciting. And then that job opened up my horizon to this program that I'm about to start. And now I'm back in a coffee shop job, right? Which leads me to where my whole intuition thing is really bringing up the flags, because in the past, like 4 months that I started working there, several problems have occurred. Several. And the types of problems that, like, not to get into specifics, but like you can't even craft it. You can't even, I wouldn't be able to come up with it. These types of problems. Like, I wouldn't be able to craft that in my mind. I don't know. It's actually insane. And the only thing I can take it as is the universe saying, girl, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. But, you know, sometimes logic over intuition, if you have to think about, you know, financials, then it becomes another story. But I really think that even this instance that I'm in right now just shows me even more of how important it is to follow your intuition. Follow your intuition. Trust your gut. Your gut knows what to do most of the time. Now, number 4 on my list is that tidying your space, tidying your home is going to do even more for you than it does your home. And what I mean by that is that, yes, I live with roommates. I live with other people. I think it's very important to keep common spaces clean and very tidy, and just have it be a place that when everybody wants to come back into the space, everybody feels good, everybody feels fresh, and it's a nice place to come home to for everyone involved. So it's important to keep your home tidy if you live with other people, if you live with roommates. It's important to do that. Now, the other flip side is that it is so good for your mind to be in a tidy space. And not only that, but it's the flow state that comes with cleaning and that comes with tidying is so beneficial. There is science behind it. I am forgetting it right now. I think I discussed it on the morning routines episode. I'm not sure. But Mel Robbins also did an episode with it. I believe she had, there's like a specialist when it comes to decluttering your home. I'll link the video somewhere, but decluttering, tidying your home, it's going to do wonders for your stress levels. It's going to do wonders for your morale. When you go to sleep and you look around your room and it's like, oh, it's beautiful in here. When you wake up and you get up and you're like, wow, it's beautiful in here. You go and you open a drawer and the drawer is organized and clean. It's like, wow, it does wonders. It does wonders for you more than it does your home. Honestly, trust me on that. I had a day where I decluttered. I had this drawer that was piling up, that was becoming terrifying for like 2 years. Maybe even 3. I did not touch this drawer. I was like, you know what? That's no man's land. The moment I cleaned that up, I can't tell you, it's as though my mood increased in positivity by 3.7%. Like 3.7 times is what I meant to say. Literally amazing. I mean, it's so good for you. And to piggyback off of that, if you've been in a room where you haven't moved it around, you haven't changed the decor in 2 years, I've been living in this house for 3 years, and I had never changed the way that my furniture was set up. I changed the rug once or twice. I got a different duvet cover, but the art on the walls, everything is the exact same. But this year I decided, you know what, let me switch it up. Let me switch up this room. And also so beneficial, you guys. It's almost like you have a whole new room. I almost feel like it triggered more creativity because the spaces that I like to dwell in were in new places now. There's like a new perception of the light, a new perception of like your space. I don't know. It was really, really nice mentally for me. So that's another recommendation. If you can switch up your furniture in your room, switch it up. If you can switch up your duvet cover as well, switch it up. Now, this next one was a tough pill to swallow, right? And I feel like this is a lesson that I need to learn every single time it happens. But the truth is that friendships will ebb and flow. That is just the nature of relationships, the nature of friendships, romantic relationships, parental relationships. All relationships ebb and flow. All relationships go through phases, and it's really important to understand that flow state, that tide, if you will, and how that exists in every relationship that you form. It will make that heartbreak that much less difficult, not to completely detach, but it almost just helps you kind of accept the wave when it does come. And the thing is, a lot of friendships, there's that whole phrase that, you have friendships for a reason, friendships for a season, and friendships for life. And I feel like even those friendships for life can go through phases, but it is difficult when you understand or when you see like, okay, me and this person were friends because we worked together. Okay, me and this person were friends because they taught me how to stand up for myself. Okay, me and this person were friends because, our life paths are the same. It's important to kind of understand that, and it kind of lets you let go in a softer way, in a gentler way, with more love in your heart, than when you are thinking that every single relationship that is in your life, every single relationship that you are a part of is meant to last forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, right? So I feel like it's important to realize that. It's important to let that sink in. And I was reminded again this year, and I'm sure I'll be reminded several years to come, just because that is the nature of relationships. The only person that will be with you forever is you. Now, on that note, don't let past experiences affect your capacity to gain new ones. If you have a really terrible friendship breakup or a really terrible relationship and you're like, I'll never find love again, I'll never let anyone in again, I feel like it's totally natural to have that kind of wall up, totally natural to feel like, okay, I'm not gonna like toss my heart on the line again like I did last time. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna totally throw caution to the wind. Didn't end up right for me the first time, and that is neuroplasticity. That is self-protection. That is functional. It's very functional. But I feel like a lot of the time we are standing in our own way of new relationships that could come, new opportunities that could come, new friendships that could form. Don't let that negative experience completely shield you from your capacity or your deservingness, if that's a word, of this relationship, of love.